Today we're going big because I'm making food that the elves would eat in Lord of the Rings. And let me just say that this was super challenging. Now unlike the hobbits, the elves lived way more elegantly. Everything was just a bit more fancy in their lives, from their clothes all the way to their food. So to challenge myself for this video, I'm going to be making all of these recipes in a Michelin restaurant style. In this video, we're going to dive deep into the lore of the elvish cuisine to help kind of give it some clarity. Because whenever I was doing research for the video, I saw some people that had ideas about the elves that were just, well, wrong. Now finding foods or recipes that were mentioned in the books and movies was a little bit difficult, so these dishes are going to be my idea of what they would eat or things that are inspired by the elves. Except for lembas. They definitely mentioned lembas. By the end of the video, we will have made 6 immaculate Michelin-style dishes to see if the elves' food truly reigned supreme in Middle-earth. And we will first start with how the elves actually obtain their ingredients. Now, one thing that isn't showcased for the elves is that at their core, they're really good at hunting and gathering. Like, they've existed for so long, living in this beautiful, deep relationship with nature, and obtaining food wasn't about survival. This was an integral part of their existence, affecting every ingredient that they brought to the tables. I found that in elvish community you had both hunters and gatherers, and one interesting thing that I found is that some people believed that they were strictly vegan, but I found evidence that it was way more of a choice among certain elves. So this just goes to show that the diets among the elves were very diverse. But one thing for sure is that it was always centered on pure and natural components. But the emphasis on gathering is where we get a real insight to their ingredients. Now I want you to imagine an elf moving through an ancient forest. What would it sound like? It's not with heavy footsteps like we might take with our camel packs and boots. It would be more swift with silence and grace. Their senses are highly developed, and every rustle of leaves or leaf falling from the trees is registered for them. Also, another thing to note is that they aren't just taking from the forest. They're engaging with it, like they're having a conversation with the resources that they use, choosing only the finest and freshest ingredients. And we learn that elves can literally communicate with the trees, singing to them. And I don't mean metaphorically. This is a real and deeply connected relationship, and it enhances the quality of their food. You can picture an elven gatherer humming a quiet melody, expressing gratitude to a berry bush as they gently pluck the fruit, or even singing to a tree, encouraging its growth and the sweetness of its fruits. And I love that elves practice giving thanks to the wilderness, because again, it just shows how much respect they have for it. Now, one thing to mention is that their environments highlight their ingredients. You know that elves living by the sea would no doubt be professionals at finding edible sea greens or even harvesting shellfish. And they would probably be using methods that are gentle on nature. Imagine the delicate briny flavors they'd introduce to their dishes. Forest elves like the ones in Lothlorien or Mirkwood would have a deep knowledge of every edible mushroom or sweet forest fruit that's beneath the trees. And this encyclopedic knowledge of their surroundings ensures that they select ingredients that are the best of the best, the creme de la creme, the mightiest of, alright, we get it. Sorry. Now let's discuss something particularly unique with the corn they used for lembas. We know that elves are indeed familiar with agriculture. Again, their vast knowledge of nature has made them efficient farmers, but also there was some magical influence. The notes I found mentioned that this corn sprouted quickly, needing little light to ripen, so this is clearly not ordinary corn. It may have been a special variety that was probably nurtured by elven hands and maybe infused with just a touch of elven magic. And I also found that the soil had some sort of enchantment that helped the crop grow quicker, and that it required less resources than your traditional crops. And the soil helped grow this corn, providing a grain with unique properties, making it perfect for their signature bread. And when harvesting, I found that they gathered each one by hand. Like, they didn't use large machinery or even simple tools, again showing that incredible care and respect for nature. And how they stored the corn I thought was pretty cool too. They wove the weaves into a basket, and the notes even suggest that these baskets may have been glowing with magic. So this helps you paint a clear image of the utility combined with enchantment, keeping the raw ingredients fresh. And notably, bugs and other small creatures would never go near it. So this tells us that it might have some natural repellency, as if the corn itself was safe from pests, guaranteeing its freshness for lembas. The corn wasn't just a vegetable that you could pick up at your local Kroger. It literally had aura, showcasing how sacred this ingredient actually was. Now, since the image of elves are seen as often peaceful or super calm, does that mean that they weren't skillful hunters? By no means. I found that they ride out in parties to hunt for wild game in the forest. However, this isn't like the often more aggressive hunting of men. For elves, hunting is approached with that same deep respect and balance of nature as their gathering. I found that when hunting, elves would even hunt animals and plan ahead for future meals. And what's interesting about this is that we know that they do not need a ton of calories to survive. So I would like to think that this is some form of population control, similar to modern day hunting, to aid in keeping the balance of nature in check. Now this is super important to understand, because it shows that elven hunting isn't an act of greed or taking from nature, but just taking care of the environment. And the elves understand that an unchecked population of any species can be harmful for the environment. so their hunting becomes a necessary and precise component of maintaining the health and balance of their forest. And this would again lead to their carefully selected and respectfully harvested game for their food and resources. And consider an elven hunting party. They would be silent, swift, and super precise. Their arrows would fly with accuracy, guaranteeing a fast and respectful killing of the animal. There would be no waste and no pointless suffering. Afterwards, there would likely be an expression of gratitude, maybe quiet blessings to the downed creature and to the forest for providing them this meal. Again, I want to reiterate that they have this deep and natural respect for nature. And I know you're probably like, I get it, they're tree huggers, get on with it. But I'm just excited because I love the elves so much and I find them so interesting. And part of their respect is about honoring the cycle of life and death. It offers a powerful lesson in conscious resource management and ingredient selection. Alright, now let's discuss the most iconic and perhaps most significant food in Elvish culture, lembas. This legendary whey bread is more than just something you eat. It symbolizes elves' ancient wisdom. I found some cool facts about it when researching for the video. Firstly, only the elves knew how to make the lembas. And for me, the fact that only they could make it shows that lembas is more than just food they eat. It can be seen as a sacred art that is a closely guarded secret passed down through countless generations, involving precise techniques and special ingredients. It was designed for journeys needing little to sustain them, which is a perfect example of elven efficiency and their grasp of endurance, packing a lot of nourishment into something that's very small and portable. It is able to help those in peril, which shows that it had a life-sustaining property, capable of getting someone back on their feet. Now I've already mentioned the special corn that it comes from, but here's a crucial detail that I want to share. No one was permitted to harvest this corn except for the 11 maids of Yavanna. These 11 women were the sole keepers of this knowledge. Also, they were the only ones who knew how to make it in the Elvish community, which tells us that this was a super specialized skill. It likely involved specific rituals and magic words, or just a natural understanding of the corn's properties and the exact, perhaps magical baking process. And this was a powerful act of creation, filled with elven wisdom and care, making it a truly unique dish. And all these details really show how amazing lembas is, and the insane amount of attention that goes into making it, from the raw ingredients to the finished bread. Lembas is more than just a journey bread that fills a grown man's stomach in one bite. It's literally the love story from how it's grown, to how it's harvested, and to how it's cooked. It speaks to the elves' foresight and their mastery over life and growth, reaching its peak in a food that embodies their very existence. It's also a visible sign of their ancient power and their role as guardians of the natural world. So given their respectful approach to gathering and sacred bread, what about celebrations? Do the elves truly party like it's 1999? By all means. While detailed menus for specific elvish feasts are less common than those of hobbits or men, we can infer a great deal of their party foods considering their core identity and their respect for life. Elvish celebrations would undoubtedly be elegant, harmonious affairs where food plays a beautifully prepared role. Consider the elves' connection with nature and their awakening, where the first thing they saw was the stars and the first thing that they heard were the waves hitting stones. These core experiences would undeniably influence their celebrations and the foods that they choose to serve. Feasts might be held under the open sky, beneath ancient trees, or by the shimmering sea, and the food itself would reflect this natural beauty. It would be fresh, perfectly prepared, and presented beautifully. Unlike the hearty, often rich, heavy foods of men, or the abundant cakes of hobbits, elves' celebratory food would likely focus on things like how they taste, what they're made of, and how they look. I want you to imagine platters of freshly gathered berries, or even juicy fruits like oranges or apples. They might even have some delicate pastries made with their finely milled and unique grains. And if game meat were served from their responsible hunting, it would be lean and expertly cooked to highlight those natural flavors. Now, elven wine would surely flow freely at these gatherings, and the flavors would probably have notes from the places that it came from. And again, these celebrations wouldn't be rambunctious and unrestrained events, like a middle school pep rally filled with kids screaming 6-7, but instead they would be occasions for deep conversation and sharing songs and stories, with the food acting as the cherry on top, bringing it all together. The food would help them connect deeply, adding a shared experience that nourishes both body and spirit, made to look stunning. And the concept of Galadriel's garden accelerating growth further hints at how the elves could grow and improve their natural produce, which means that their celebratory feasts might feature fruits and veggies that are incredibly delicious, having been nurtured by the elven hands and perhaps the elven magic. And surely this would result in flavors and textures that are rarely found elsewhere. I wanted to take a break to let you guys know that just like in my last few videos, I've made a cookbook for you guys so that way you can make these recipes at home. In the description below is a link to my fourth wall page where I have this cookbook and a few others that have the recipes that I've made from this video and the videos I've made before. For just $3 you can have these recipes, and by purchasing this it helps support the channel so that way I can continue to make videos for you guys. Thank you all so much for everything, and now back to the video. So with all of this, what does that tell us about the Elvish cuisine? Well, for me, it's clear that it's a crucial part of who they are and what they believe, showing how artistic they can be and that it's fully ingrained in their cultural practices. Their way of eating reflects their timeless wisdom and their incredible respect for the world around them, seen in every ingredient that they gather and every dish that they prepare. I hope this deep dive into the ingredients, preparations, and their approach to food has given you a newfound appreciation for these incredible beings and a different perspective on how food can truly define a culture. It's a powerful reminder that even in the most fantastical stories, the simple act of eating can reveal important insight about a people and their place in the big picture of life. If you enjoy this deep dive into the Elvish culture and cuisine, please hit that like button, subscribe for more culinary adventures, both real and fantastical, and let me know in the comments what's your favorite piece of Elvish lore, or if I missed something during the video. Also, I would love to know what other fictional food cultures you would like me to explore through the culinary lens. Thank you so much for watching, I love you all, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.